Oh, hello. My name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Whoa. So I know that this is a random tag day because it is Sunday, I believe, and usually tags are for Tag Tuesday, whatever. Doesn't matter. This is a very specific tag, the A tag, and I need to do it today because today is Canada Day. So I want to extend a very warm and loving, happy Canada Day to everyone, but especially to the Canadians out there. And I will get into this tag and explain why I felt so strongly about doing this, but I should also just mention that things have strangely been a little prickly between the US and Canada this month. Can't imagine why. What is the X factor here that has, suddenly potentially sprung some anonymity between what is probably historically the closest alliance any two countries have ever had, the longest peaceful, unguarded border in the world, whatever. I mean, it's just a mystery why this has happened. So I just felt like I should come on here and do this, and I knew I was gonna do it anyway, but it is particularly timely. So let's get into the questions on this. So question number one. I feel like I couldn't find, I used to have like a little Canadian flag somewhere. I found my little toothpicks for Canada Day, but anyway, I feel like I should pen these, but I can't. Anyway, okay, sorry. Question number one, what is your connection to Canada? My connection is that I had the wonderful opportunity to live for 3 years in Vancouver, Canada, aka Paradise, aka why did I leave, aka if I knew what was gonna happen in the 2016 election, I wouldn't have left. I lived in Canada. I absolutely loved it. Vancouver is a gorgeous city. It is, I think it's usually ranked up in the top 3 or 4 best places to live in the world. There's a reason. People are so nice. Let me just break this down for you. Every country has a few assholes, and we'll get there eventually, but Canadians as a people are just a gift to us from the Lord. Canadians in general are so nice, kind people. They are not obnoxious in public, and I'm an American and I know I'm obnoxious in public sometimes, but they are polite, they are kind, they are humble, they are as apologetic as the stereotype of them is. They will say sorry, they will say sorry for anything. They do say a all the time, which is adorable. They pronounce about, a boot. They're just a gift to us. I love Canadians. I have such a special place in my heart for Canadians. Again, there are assholes because that's humanity, but you will be hard pressed to find a group of people who are as a whole better than Canadians, in my personal opinion. And in my experience, I have so few Canadians that I do not just adore. So I'm so thankful for Canadians. I love Canada. Love Canada. Actually, also side note, so on my dad's side, I am 1/4 Canadian because part of his family, they were I think the second or third group over from the UK into Massachusetts, and then they were loyalists and they went to Canada during the American Revolution, and then they came back in the 30s. So we also, that's more on Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. So relationally, I'm in Eastern Canada, but in terms of my lived experience, it's in Western. Anyway, I'm just gushing. All of this to say, I fucking love Canada. I love Canadians. Canada is the best. Okay, getting finally to the book part of this. Talk about a book with red on the cover. To me, this is the first book I think of when I think of a red cover. I just think that this artwork is so iconic. It's this artwork has been attached to The Catcher in the Rye for as long as I've been alive, and I just think it's gorgeous and beautiful and just a high point in cover design. And then talk about a book with white on the cover. If you aren't catching on, this is Canadian flag colors. Also, they have a leaf on their flag. Guys, they are just the best. Anyway, white on the cover is Hungry, Roxane Gay. This is my favorite book of last year, so this was the first book that came to mind when I thought of a mostly white cover. Fantastic book, fantastic cover. Okay, the fourth question is maple syrup, talk about a sugary sweet OTP. Now I had kind of a hard time thinking of an answer to this because, I guess I've read a lot of contemporary romances with a beta hero that would probably fit this, but nothing memorable, not really a OTP because not that memorable. So I went kind of a weird route here, and that is Heart of Obsidian by Nalini Singh. I don't want to, this is the 12th book in the series, and like the hero, even just telling you the name of the hero would be a spoiler for the series. Let's just say that the hero and the heroine have like had the shittiest lives you can imagine, and literally the only thing keeping one of them from being a Dexter level psychopath serial killer and the other one from being insane, like out of their mind, is the fact that they love each other. And I do find that really sweet. And like, they're like, the hero is such like, he has a lot of hard edges, but like he is just a little marshmallow goo for the heroine, and I find that just adorable. So I decided to go with this, but again, like a psychopath and a mentally ill person, not maybe what you'd think of for sugary sweet, but this is the best I got. 5 is Poutine. Talk about a guilty pleasure book or genre. I don't really believe in guilty pleasures. I think that that's just sort of a bullshit way to make people feel bad about enjoying something, and like, why do you want to spend your time making people feel bad about what they enjoy? So having said that, I am aware that there is a lot of extremely paternalistic and condescending criticism of paranormal romance. Just see any think piece about Twilight, which, to be clear, I actually really didn't like Twilight. I just was not into that. But I think the moralizing over what teenage girls read was really gross. Anyway, all that to say, paranormal romance, I think, just like generally gets shit upon a lot. And yeah, a lot of it's not good quality, but like, hey, that Nalini Singh book I was just talking about, that series is fantastic quality. Magic, the Kate Daniels series is, I guess, it's not quite paranormal romance. It's more like urban fantasy romance. But anyway, like, there's some like super quality series in the firmament of paranormal romance, but in general, it's just basically shit on. So we'll go with that. Number 6, Canada's diversity. Talk about your favorite diverse read. Actually, I wanted to take this moment because this was a distinction I learned when I was living in Canada, and I felt like as an American, this was a really helpful, slightly like nuanced shift between the way Canadians think about what Americans would call diversity and how Americans process that. Canada usually talks about diversity more as multiculturalism. And again, like, there are definitely some racial blind spots in Canadians. I'm not saying that they're without blame or like perfectly enlightened when it comes to these things. Side note, especially about non-Asian and non-Native Canadians. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But Canada talks about diversity as multiculturalism because the idea is that to be a Canadian doesn't mean that you have to come in and speak English or speak French. Like, you are welcome. There is not the same kind of social pressure, for example, for immigrants to immediately learn English, or, oh, you're not a real Canadian. Like, there's a real, I think, it is a shared cultural value that other cultures within Canada, like that, essentially there's room for there to be subcultures within Canadian culture in a way that America, when we talk about diversity or when we talk about like, the melting pot, what we mean is we want you to come in and bring some things from your culture, but like, you need to become an American. And there's just a slightly different narrative around that in Canada, which I found really like illuminating to my own kind of preconceptions about what it means to have different cultures and different experiences as Americans in America. So, all that to say, I know that the spirit of this was asking me to pick a diverse read in the sense that something that's really different from my own experience, and I immediately thought of Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. This is just so good. This is a memoir. I think that this is a really helpful perspective because I think often in American discourse about race and about diversity, there's an implicit assumption that Black people need to forgive white people and move on. And I really appreciate that Ta-Nehisi Coates is like, no, I'm not playing into that narrative. So I think that he's, I think, an uncomfortable voice for a lot of people because he's also not, so a lot of African-American or Black kind of thought about racial justice comes out of a Christian perspective, not an evangelical perspective, but the church is an extremely important part of Black culture, especially like philosophically. Think someone like Martin Luther King. And I actually really think that it's helpful that he specifically is not coming from that context because he does not have the same assumption that there's a premium on forgiveness, and I think it opens up a lot of really interesting conversations. So anyway, I think this is a fantastic book. I'm really looking forward to reading We Were 8 Years in Power. I've not read that yet, but he's a thinker that is really challenging to me in a great way. This is a great memoir. I highly recommend it. Okay, number 7 is Lacrosse, an epic battle in a book. I really think that this should have been curling or hockey, because the stereotype is correct. If you go into any bar in Canada, those are basically the things on. Or there's sometimes Canadian rules football, which is like, oh, sweetie, no. Anyway, an epic battle in a book. I mean, you could go, I guess I'll go the Battle of Hogwarts in book 7 of Harry Potter. I think that was a really well done battle in terms of like keeping you oriented to how the action was progressing and having like a lot of like little mini climaxes and kind of like mini stakes, and shit got real. So let's go with that one. Okay, number 8, 10 Provinces. Talk about the 10th book you've read this year. I looked it up. The 10th book I read this year was Northern Lights by Nora Roberts, which I thought was a really, solid romantic suspense type book. I don't think it was one of her best ones, but it was definitely, it was a cool setting. It was set in Alaska, and it was essentially exploring a murder that took place a long time ago that essentially the body gets discovered, and that like unearths things, and in the little teeny town in Alaska, like shit starts getting real. Yeah, it was really enjoyable. Not my favorite from her, but definitely like a totally fun vacation type read. Okay, number 9 is 3 Territories. Talk about your top 3 favorite books of all time. I mean, my 1 and 2 are locked in, and that is Jane Eyre is my favorite book of all time, followed by The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. That is number 2. Number 3, you could go a lot of ways. I think because I love Agatha Christie so much, I think I will probably now start to say that my 3rd favorite book is probably Cards on the Table by Agatha Christie, just because I think that is my favorite Agatha Christie book, and she is probably as a whole my favorite author. So yeah, I feel comfortable saying let's go with Cards on the Table. Okay, number 10, Beaver. Tell us about an annoying but important character. Oh, there are so many to choose from. A character that I viscerally hate, and I think I'll give Tolkien the benefit of the doubt and say this person's important, but like, is it really? Is Tom Bombadil. Like, I hate Tom Bombadil. Tom Bombadil is the reason why I did not finish the Fellowship of the Ring the first time I tried to read it, because I was like, what the actual fuck is this? I know some people, they're very passionate Tom Bombadil defenders, but I am not on that train, and yeah, I do not find him enjoyable. I find him quite annoying, and I will concede that maybe he was important to get the hobbits out of the Shire, but like, I think there were other paths that could have been taken. Okay, Colorful Money, which is so logical. Like my fellow Americans, living in a place where there is colorful money so that you can actually like quickly identify which bills you have, and not having pennies anymore is lovely. It's great. Anyway, Colorful Money. The books, colorful books, naked hardbacks included, that you own. Well, I can just literally point you to my shelf back here. My Penguin cloth bound classics are just, they're things of beauty, and they're some of my prized possessions, so there you go. Okay, number 12 is to say A. Canadians really do that, and it's actually a super helpful kind of filler word, and it's a word that has a lot of different connotations. So like sometimes it can be like huh, or like what, or I mean it serves a lot of different linguistic functions, and I respect that. It's a very useful word. So A away, Canadians. Okay, so that was my A book tag video. Again, in case you haven't gotten the message, I absolutely love Canada. If you have never been, I certainly recommend visiting. I would recommend, top 3 places. Vancouver is beautiful in the summer. It is paradise on earth. There is no humidity. It is like 75 degrees Celsius. There are mountains. There is beach. So I'd say that. And I'll include Whistler in that. I would say Victoria, because it's just really cool. And then, you know what? Go whale watching in Nova Scotia. It's a good time. I went to Quebec City once. I wouldn't say I love that, but it is very touristy, so there you go. I went to Montreal, like I went through Montreal. I didn't get to really enjoy it. I would very much like to visit Montreal at some point. And actually I have a lot of friends there. I also have a lot of friends right now who are at the University of Toronto, so I need to get up there. Maybe I'll do that next year. But anyway, Canada's great. Go visit. Hug a Canadian today if you can, and happy Canada Day. Bye!